So, some of you are wondering then, so if this is really what you like to do, why are you running for County Clerk and Recorder? Because I'm a county commissioner. And there's an answer to that. For the last number of years, since I got involved in the Republican Party, really, I've been working on the election process. Most of it internally, working on bylaws and rules and a host of other things to try and make sure that we as a party run our elections at the Assembly appropriately. As the Republican Party chairman, I ran the county assembly in 1998 and made sure that our election processes were done properly. Before I became a commissioner, I actually represented the Clerk and Recorder's office in some litigation on elections issues. And I've given advice to various candidates over the years on election issues. So elections have always been part of what I've done. But recently the stakes have been raised. And you've seen that in places like Florida, when Bush was elected, Minnesota recently, and then where, we have one winner on election night, but somehow we managed to come up with enough votes to put Al Franken in the U.S. Senate. If you give us 6 more months, we'll eventually come up with the answer we wish the people had done. And then you see what happened in New Jersey this last election cycle. Now, turned out the Republicans won New Jersey by a big enough margin, it didn't matter. Some of the shenanigans the Democrats tried to pull. But the Democrats and their friends at Acorn have started to do things to try and dilute your right to vote. They have said, well, don't check signatures on those absentee ballots. Just trust that whoever sent it in was the right person. That's actually what the Democratic Party did in New Jersey. They wrote a letter to every clerk and recorder in the state and said, don't check signatures on the absentee ballots. Now that's absurd. That's absurd. And there are folks in the Democratic Party who say, well, we don't want to disenfranchise anybody. But if you allow someone to vote who doesn't have the right to vote, you are disenfranchising every other one of us who had the legal right to vote. So a week ago, there's a bill up in the legislature to tighten up our requirements for who votes in this county and in this state. Anybody ever had a Comcast bill? CSU bill? Woodmore Water and Sanitation bill? Anybody ever had a bill from a utility company? Ever tossed it away in the garbage can after paying it, so you just kept, did the stub? Well, under current Colorado law, if someone's going through Ken Bull's garbage can, or happens to see it blow out of there because it didn't get dumped quite right by his trash service, and picks it up and it says Ken Bull, and it's a utility bill, that individual can actually go in and vote at the precinct on election day and say, I'm Ken Bull. Well, what's your proof? Here's my utility bill. And Colorado law says that's enough to prove who you are. Now, I don't know about your utility bills. They don't include my picture. They don't include anything that actually proves who I am. And the state of Colorado has this absurd requirement that you don't even have to prove who you are when you walk in to vote. So this last week, I was up at the State Affairs Committee testifying in favor of a bill from Representative Ken Summers that would get rid of utility bills as proof of identity when you walk in to vote. Now, this is a fairly straightforward issue, right? How could you possibly disagree with this? Well, let me tell you how. Because the bill before ours illustrates the problem in the legislature right now and why we need to make a change in the Colorado legislature. Some of you have driven up and seen these beautiful, 5 feet by 8 feet signs when you drive by a highway project saying they were paid for by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Prominently listed below, Governor Bill Ritter, Jr. Those signs cost about $1,000 each. the total number of signs comes up to somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $400,000. And some of you may have noticed there are people in Denver who are saying there's a shortage. We need to cut back. We need to raise taxes. We need to eliminate exemptions. And we need to up the ticket people are paying. And so, Republican, again, Representative Balmer introduced this little bill that says we're not going to buy any more signs. And you would have thought the whole world had collapsed. This was going to cause confusion for voters. And motorists wouldn't realize there's a construction zone without the $1,000 paid for by Bill Ritter sign in front of it. And they defeated it on a straight line party vote. 4 Republicans, 7 Democrats. The vote, 4-7. They at least allowed the Republicans to try to move it to the full floor. And so they let the Republicans vote or make a motion, and then they killed the motion, but they at least let them vote on it. But when it came to get rid of utility bills, they didn't even vote on the motion to take it to the floor. They instantly substituted a motion to kill it forever in this session. Motion of PI, or postpone indefinitely. And again, 7 Democrats dutifully voted to make sure that nobody could check to see who really was the individual who was voting. And the 4 Republicans simply outvoted again. There are key election issues where there are differences between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. And when you look at the straight party line votes, I've testified before in favor of a bill that would require proof of citizenship before you can register to vote. Seems like a normal thing, right? We believe that every citizen should have the right to vote. But the Democrats want to let the non-citizens vote too. And so they killed that bill, again, on a straight party line vote. Why do I say this? Why do I tell you about this? Because as a clerk and recorder candidate, I care about these issues. I am passionate on trying to make sure that our elections process is run correctly, so that your vote is counted, and it's not counted as 99 100ths of a vote because we let some other people vote. In fact, years ago when I first got active in the Republican Party here, Doug Dean and I wanted to do some things in the bylaws to require there to be greater transparency in the Republican Party. The then chairman didn't like that idea. But he didn't pull us off the committee. He didn't take away our right to vote. He just appointed some extra people to make sure he could outvote us. Well, that's what the Democrats are trying to do. They're not going to walk in and say, Wayne Williams, you can't vote. They're just going to try to get some extra people who aren't legally able to, so they can outvote me. And they can outvote each of you. And we have to have a clerk and recorder candidate who's willing to stand up against those attempts to dilute our right to vote. Who's willing to stand up when someone tries to impose a fee that's not allowed. I don't know if y'all remember, Pat Kelly stood up when he was clerk and recorder and the city tried to impose a car fee without a vote and said, no, we're not going to collect it. And so there are key reasons why you need a county clerk and recorder who is willing to stand up against bureaucracies, who's willing to fight